What they do say is everything he does is illegal, everything he does is unconstitutional, everything he does is worthy of some sort of
Well, that's because the courts have said it's unconstitutional.
If you tell your base that,
the courts have said a lot of what he is doing is unconstitutional.
They'll expect you to act on it.
No, that's what
Can you guarantee right now they won't impeach him? You can't.
But we also don't know what Donald Trump's going to do between the last 2 years.
Scott Jennings, the smug MAGA loyalist, returned to Abby Phillip's show once again with his usual routine of pushing misinformation, spreading misleading narratives, and defending Republican talking points. We're about to break down another intense debate from Abby Phillip's panel featuring Scott Jennings, Bakari Sellers, and several others. There were plenty of heated moments and sharp exchanges throughout the discussion, and I also have some thoughts I'd like to share along the way. Let's dive into it together.
Tonight, Donald Trump wants to erase his impeachments through a process that'll almost certainly open up a debate about his past behavior in office. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump and his allies have discussed pushing lawmakers to pass a resolution symbolically expunging his first two impeachments. No constitutional procedure exists for undoing an impeachment, but Trump says that it should be done because, quote, I did nothing wrong. The measure would not be considered until after the midterms, and even then, House Republicans say it could prove difficult to pass, particularly if, obviously, Republicans don't hold on to the House. But this is exactly the kind of thing that people like John Cornyn are warning about. He says to the court, this is what Cornyn said to the New York Times. He said that Senate Republicans believe that Trump was hurting his own party with self-serving decisions and his insistence on slavish loyalty, ultimately setting himself up for a midterm disaster that would pave the way for the most miserable 2 years of his life. And in the interim, Cornyn says, he reserves the right to choose where I'm going to or not going to defer to Mr. Trump. I cannot think of anything that is a worse distraction than relitigating Trump's two impeachments. Before, after the midterms, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't erase the fact that he was the only president impeached twice. It doesn't erase the fact that now the American people will remember that he was impeached twice. And it doesn't do anything for his party. It doesn't do anything to bring down costs. It is only for one purpose, and that is his ego.
Look,
so if I were a Republican,
this is the best,
I'd just be pissed.
This is the best idea Donald Trump's had in a very long time, and I think that everyone around the table needs to make sure that Donald Trump, I know you're watching us right now, but please, let's go down this path. I mean, you deserve to have this argument in front of the American people about your impeachments. In fact, I want us to have this discussion in North Carolina. I wanted to have it in Ohio, maybe Maine, Texas, if we're getting a little freaky. We want to make sure that we have this discussion in front of the American public, because as we go down the lack of self-awareness, this is right up there with something Donald Trump should smile about tonight.
Political assassination by the Democrats on President Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome. They had fake impeachments on President
Trump. What are we even talking about?
He would like his impeachments to be expunged from the record. I don't blame him. It's his legacy. And he's been a target of the Democrats over and over. In fact, they said if they take back the House, they're going to immediately impeach him again. Like, enough is enough. This is so distracting to the American people.
I just want to be clear. Expunging impeachments is not a thing.
It's
not a thing.
I had to ask the question. I don't even know if it's possible, so I didn't want to go down that path.
There's a thing that's in the Constitution, and it is that you can impeach a president. The thing that's not in the Constitution, or anywhere else for that matter, is expunging an impeachment. So this, I mean, to call it symbolic, I think is almost even overstating the thing. It seems like, frankly, a waste of time, or just a transparent play to make Trump feel good on a particular day. What's the point?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to use the word symbolic or not, but it's a political statement to say that this wasn't fair when it happened, and you have different political actors who are making a different statement. My view is the impeachments were, I don't know if expunged is the right word, but they were obliterated or done away with when he beat the rap in the Senate. I mean, he was never convicted on any of the charges.
Same thing Bill Clinton said.
Well, and they never. Look, we adjudicated this already, and the political analysis I think is correct. Would be hard to pass. I did interview a member of Congress the other day, Darrell Issa of California. I think has filed legislation to do this. I think it has a number of co-sponsors. Look, I think it would attract a lot of Republican votes, but would it attract all the Republican votes or enough Republican votes? I don't know the answer to that. I agree with Carla. I think if the Democrats take back the House, these old impeachments will be the least of anybody's concerns, because they'll move on another one immediately.
But do you think it's a helpful message going into the midterms that you're talking about impeachment as like a thing?
I don't know. You tell me. The people running for Congress in your party are talking about it every day.
No, actually they are talking every day about lowering costs. That's what they're talking about.
You well know that when asked directly, most Democrats say Donald Trump should be impeached again.
Most Democrats who are running for Congress have said that Trump should be impeached again?
You would be hard pressed, I think, to find a Democrat who would go on the record and say, you know what? No. What they do say is everything he does is illegal, everything he does is unconstitutional, everything he does is worthy of some sort of
that's because the courts have said it's unconstitutional.
If you tell your base that,
the courts have said a lot of what he is doing is unconstitutional.
They'll expect you to act on it.
No, that's what
Can you guarantee right now they won't impeach him? You can't.
I think
we also.
Seriously, imagine breaking laws and facing no real consequences. We're talking about someone who was convicted on more than 30 felony counts and still never spent a day in jail or prison. Meanwhile, as Bakari Sellers is about to point out, Donald Trump continues to profit on a level we've never seen before. The amount of money he's made during his second term dwarfs what every previous president combined earned while serving in office, and it isn't even a close comparison. So yes, when you're running a presidency that many critics view as operating outside the rules, constantly facing accusations of breaking laws, enriching yourself, and turning public office into a personal money-making machine, it's not exactly surprising that the opposing party starts talking about impeachment. That's simply the political reality. Of course, Scott Jennings acts completely stunned by the idea, as if it's some outrageous suggestion. Then you have Carl Higbie sitting across from Soledad O'Brien with that oddly fixed smile that somehow never seems to change. I've said this before, but if I were running Democratic ad campaigns, despite having absolutely no professional experience in politics, I'd plaster this message everywhere. I'd have billboards in every major city and commercials running around the clock. I'd simply show Donald Trump's own words, "I did nothing wrong." And then, right beside that, list the felony convictions, the impeachment proceedings, and all the accusations surrounding insider trading and market manipulation. On paper, this should be one of the easiest elections Democrats could possibly win. Yet I can't shake the feeling that it's going to end the same way it always does, with expectations built up only for everything to fall apart at the last moment. The grift just keeps going.
And the Trump family and Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. I think that they say
changing the subject.
No.
He wants to impeach him.
No, what I'm saying is the American public right now we're
Scott Jennings is sitting there laughing at Bakari Sellers for wanting to impeach Donald Trump. But the reality is that a huge number of Americans would be perfectly happy if Trump were no longer in office and simply faded from the political spotlight altogether. For many people across the country, the constant drama, controversy, and non-stop headlines have become exhausting. A large share of the public would rather move on, stop hearing about Donald Trump every single day, and focus on something else entirely. That's the sentiment a lot of Americans seem to share, regardless of how Scott Jennings tries to dismiss it.
Biden and that grift, he was on the take from every major adversary.
First of all, what? Let's back up. Let's just be extremely clear. The wealth of Donald Trump has grown exponentially. We haven't seen anybody make this many trades.
He's a real businessman.
No, he's a grifter. The difference is,
listen to you.
Do you understand that someone?
The President of the United States.
Yes, and the President of the United States is benefiting off of the presidency. Do you not see that?
He's made more stock trades than any president in the history of this country.
Do you not see that?
He's literally
unbelievable president working every day on behalf of the
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a very just plain question?
Ask me.
Has the President of the United States benefited or enriched himself by making stock trades, then mentioning then mentioning those same companies from his pedestal as president of the United States?
But I don't know if the president.
You don't know if Donald Trump's done this.
I haven't followed that, but I do know that the senators
he's a great president, but you don't actually know the facts about his financial well-being.
On several occasions, including when it comes to companies like Dell, he said at the White House, "Go buy Dell." Then hundreds of trades of that stock. The stock goes up. He benefits from it. And that's just one aspect of this. There's also his family doing business in drones, in cryptocurrency and other areas where they are either getting contracts from the federal government or the president has the ability to regulate those industries to their benefit. So those are the types of questions that are on the table right now that are very real, and that I think, Bakari is hinting at. Democrats are going to look into, I think whether that looks like impeachment or not.
It's called accountability and oversight.
It might just be oversight, and that might be it.
But
he's not trading himself.
You know they do.
No, they're going to do oversight. They will do oversight.
But honestly,
guaranteeing no one.
I will guarantee you that they will do oversight, and they're going to look.
No. Let's back up. Let's be honest. Members of Congress always file impeachments. I mean, Shree filed an impeachment resolution. I believe Al Green filed an impeachment resolution. That's going to
They are
happen.
really
but also,
you.
you're going to have Democrats who are talking like Sherrod Brown, who's talking about things like inflation.
Let me ask you a question. If you went to a Democratic political dinner tonight and somebody asked you in front of the crowd, should we impeach Donald Trump? And you said, no. What would happen to you? Would you be thrown out in 3 seconds or 1 second?
Democrats are not running on impeachment, and that is not what they're talking to the American people. No, they aren't. It's a fact, Scott. They are not running on impeachment.
Don't ask me. I think the president of the United States should be impeached, but I ain't running for that.
All right, next for us,
Once again, this really highlights just how much of a Trump defender Scott Jennings has become. He's sitting there laughing at the idea of impeachment as if it's some ridiculous concept. But when people believe a president is abusing power, ignoring norms, and constantly finding himself at the center of controversy, of course there are going to be calls for accountability. That's not surprising at all. Critics point to everything from legal troubles to allegations of corruption, financial self-interest, and questionable conduct, which is exactly why this conversation keeps coming up. Bakari Sellers brought up concerns about market manipulation and other issues, yet Scott Jennings treats the entire discussion like a joke. Then you have Carl Higbie sitting there with that permanent grin, acting shocked whenever someone criticizes Donald Trump. When she says this is the president of the United States as though that alone should end the conversation, it comes across as a little disingenuous. The fact that someone holds the highest office in the country doesn't mean they should be shielded from scrutiny or criticism. If anything, it means they should face even more of it. The idea that Democrats would push for investigations, hearings, or even impeachment discussions shouldn't surprise anyone. Many Democratic voters have been calling for aggressive oversight for years, and if Democrats regain power, there's little doubt they will continue examining Trump's actions closely. Meanwhile, Scott Jennings remains in his familiar role, defending Trump at every opportunity and framing every criticism as unfair or politically motivated. That's been his approach from the beginning. The same goes for many of the MAGA commentators who appear on Abby Phillip's show night after night. They continue presenting a version of reality where Donald Trump is the victim of endless attacks, rather than someone facing criticism over his own actions. Whether they genuinely believe that narrative or are simply trying to sell it to viewers is up for debate. The bigger question is whether the American public is buying it. Based on the reactions we're seeing, many people clearly are not. But that's just my take. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree more with Bakari Sellers and the panelists challenging Trump, or do you find yourself siding with Scott Jennings and the MAGA commentators defending him? Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.